Hi everyone, I'm Carey Pena. We are here in our Inspired Media 360 studios. We are really turning over all of our programming for the next few weeks to crisis programming having to do with the COVID-19. We are here in Phoenix right now, and I invited my friend Tom Egan from FSL, Foundation for Senior Living, into the studio because when you talk about a crisis, I think no population is being struck harder right now than seniors. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
So talk to us about the kind of numbers you are seeing.
You know, the numbers are really challenging. I mean, we serve on average over 30,000 people a year. So it's thousands of people every day that we're taking care of. That's just meeting the current demand of people we take care of. You know, you've heard me say FSL takes care of Arizonans of all ages. Mm-hmm. When we look at it on just a daily basis, probably 2/3 of the people we take care of are seniors at the Foundation for Senior Living. So demand is going up, and some services are being limited, some services are being closed, but demand's going up and funding's going down at the same time. So that's sort of the challenge that I think we see.
You're going to have to figure out ways to get more meals to your clients that you serve and the greater population. Yeah. That seems to be an urgent need right now because the seniors a lot of them can't leave.
Yeah, and that's something I've started to talk about. I don't know about your family, but my wife and I were out at least a dozen stores last weekend just trying to find basics, not stocking up for the long term, but just even to get basic food.
Right.
And we were able to do some of that, but the one thing we never could find is toilet paper. Mm-hmm. So now imagine being a senior, you have no transportation, limited transportation, or you can only take public transportation. You're being told to socially distance yourself from other people. You have limited transportation options. You live on a fixed income. And even if you get to the stores, they may not have what you need. Yes. What are you supposed to do?
Right. And what are the calls that you're receiving? I mean, how are people dealing with it psychologically?
I think it's challenging right now. I think seniors are really afraid. They're isolated to begin with. Now they're more isolated, and they're afraid. You know, we're seeing more and more of that. So you mentioned meals. Let's just talk about meals. Just on an average day across all of FSL's programming, we serve over 1,400 meals per day. Now, without increasing demand at all, I've got to figure out how to do those meals. Some of them were home delivered, but the rest of them were done in congregate or group settings. Mm-hmm. Well, now we have to switch those meals to be home delivered.
Yes.
Because we know in talking to a lot of our seniors, that meal they get from us sometimes is the only hot meal they receive per day.
So I wanted to read you this tweet that caught my attention the other day, tweeted by a gentleman named Chris Jones. He says, "Coronavirus has exposed our built-in callousness toward the elderly." He writes, 70? They had a pretty good run. But if you reach 70, your life expectancy is actually 85. The difference between knowing a grandchild at 10, say, and at 25. Old years matter. Old years matter as much as young years. Every year matters. That really caught my attention.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a poignant tweet when you really think about that. You know, for our kids who are around the same age, think about that. To be able to have memories of time spent with your grandparents now versus, in your 20s.
Yes.
It's really fascinating. You know, one of the things we've talked about in the past, you and I, is children's services have always been easier for the philanthropic community to get their hearts around.
Yeah.
You know, when we start talking about the baby boomer generation or seniors, there sometimes is a little bit more of a judgment. But I think this crisis is really starting to shine a light on that. That people are realizing our seniors are really vulnerable in this situation. You know, some of the grocery stores are starting to come up with special hours for seniors, which I think is a great start.
I saw Basha's, and I'm always a fan of Basha's because the Basha family always steps up, and they have designated senior hours. I believe it's 5 to 6 a.m.
That's great.
But that's huge here in Arizona and across the country.
Yeah.
And I just saw before we walked out here on set, just some breaking news, 3 residents, 1 employee at a Georgia nursing home test positive. Obviously, this is another concern. So you're dealing with the food insecurity, the social distancing, which for a lot of seniors is extreme isolation, incredible amounts of fear in the senior population. But one of the things that is really worrying me, and I'm trying to stay level-headed, but when you see that if a senior is to get sick with COVID-19, it's a whole different ballgame than if you and I get sick.
Absolutely.
So how concerned are you about that?
I'm very concerned about that. There's so much, as you said, we just don't know yet. But if we look to Europe and we look to Asia and we see what's happening there because they've been a bit ahead of us on this journey, the mortality rate for COVID-19, we're seeing any in the 2 to 3% when you look at that in total. But when you look at it for seniors, what Asia and Europe are seeing is nearly 15% fatality rate for seniors. That's dramatic.
Yes.
That is dramatic.
So you and your team right now are really putting all of these, like all hands on deck to get the word out. And that's why I wanted to invite you in today, even though, just so everybody knows, we are being super cautious here in my studios. We only have one photographer, our photographer here. We're not having lots of folks. We're staying a distance apart. But I just think this is urgent. And I feel like having a platform that I have, I want to help spread this messaging. So we have your information up on the screen there. What do you want people to know? Because I know right now you guys already, without this crisis, you feed more than 1,400 Arizonans a day, seniors and vulnerable adults. I imagine those numbers are spiking hourly. That's
absolutely. The demand's going to go up. We, as you know, because you were emceeing our only fundraiser of the year, we've had to postpone that at this point. I mean, that event raised over $250,000 last year, and that was just to do what we normally do.
Yes.
So now I've got to raise that plus more to be able to meet the demands of the community at this time. We set up this special page on our website. Part of that is to give updates on different programs. Some of the congregate meal sites switching to home delivered. So we're trying to provide updates, but we also shifted our messaging to, look, we need to raise money and supplies for food, basic necessities. People need their medical equipment and supplies, and we're going to have to figure out the distribution network to get that to everyone.
Yes, and how are you keeping your team safe?
I think like every company, we've tried to figure out how many people we can work remotely. But when you work in healthcare, there are certain programs that it is a face-to-face interaction with clients. We're limiting visitors. We're doing a lot of the things that the CDC recommends. We have to do those things, but we have programs that operate 24 hours a day. There is no closing.
Right. So you're just going to soldier on.
Our clients need us, so we have to. It's all we can do.
And I want to ask you two last questions here before we wrap. One, how difficult was the decision to cancel your annual event? As you said, I was scheduled to be your MC.
Yeah.
And I've done some reporting already about how hard this is hitting nonprofits. But that was a tough decision to make.
It was a very tough decision. I lost a couple days of sleep over that. We really just were wrestling with, are we really going to do this? But the thought we had is, that was last week, information was different, it changes day to day, was, are people going to come? Everyone's afraid right now. We just had started to hear that, you should really limit gatherings to 50 people, and now we hear sometimes down to 10.
10 is the last
10 is the last we've heard.
Yes.
Like, we need to switch. Do we go to virtual? We've never done that before, so we made that difficult decision. And I can tell you on some of the positive side, we've reached out to our corporate partners, we've reached out to some the large foundations in town, and the community's trying to respond.
Yes.
And I think that's fantastic. I know I can say at this point that we sent out that call to all of our corporate partners, and the very first one to respond was Waymo, Google self-driving car technology.
Yes.
They responded right away of how can we help, and they made a very generous donation to the Foundation for Senior Living. We're incredibly grateful for that. I know there are some other organizations that are meeting and having conversations about making other funding available. So, but we're really going to need help from the community to be able to meet all these increasing demands.
I'm very confident that in the coming days and weeks, as I have been a news reporter for many years and covered too many tragedies to count, but what I always am amazed by and feel heartened by is how communities rally and come together. So I know this is going to happen for you guys as you continue to help our seniors. Thank you so much for all you're doing.
Thank
you.
And
where can people find out more?
I think if you go to our website, fsl.org, the organization's name is Foundation for Senior Living, but the fsl.org is the website. And then we've set up the special page. If you do fsl.org/COVID-19, we'll give you information on program closures, changes, and what we're trying to do in this challenging time.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. And
you.
Thanks to all of you for watching. As I mentioned off the top, we are going to be doing some special reporting in the coming weeks, and I'm actually putting together a special podcast right now on a variety of topics that I hope will help our community here in the Phoenix area and across the country. Until next time, take care of yourselves.